Good evening, afternoon, or morning, movie cat at the microphone. Today I will tell you a dramatic story about how a couple in love came to the conclusion that they have only the way to pour themselves alive in concrete, a French drama for your attention. Love me if you dare. Dear friends, thank you for supporting this channel, liking, commenting and subscribing. Julian is a cheerful and carefree child. He learns about life mainly through games, because for him this is his favorite pastime. Julian's father does not like excessive pampering, and his mother finds it increasingly difficult to pay attention to her child, because she has been diagnosed with cancer. One day, his mother gives Julian a beautiful box with a carousel on all sides and says that this is a real treasure. In the morning, near the school bus, little Sophie is bullied by her classmates. They throw her things around and call her a dirty Polish. Julian runs up to her and helps to collect her notebooks. To please Sophie, Julian gives her a box with a carousel. However, Julian asks Sophie to return the box sometimes, because he also really likes it. Sophie does not agree, because a gift is a gift, and now he needs to earn it. Julian looks at Sophie's offenders who are sitting on the bus. To get the box back, Julian releases the handbrake on the bus and it begins to slowly roll down the street without a driver. For this, Sophie gives Julian the box, when suddenly his father pulls him away and scolds him for his trick. Sophie wants to protect her new friend, but Julian's father slaps her. However, Julian and Sophie continue their game. One of them fulfills the other's wish and receives a box for it, and then makes a wish himself. They do not set boundaries and play to the box, even if it harms themselves or others. One day during class, the teacher asks to name words starting with the letter B. Sophie accepts Julian's challenge, raises her hand and says all the curse words that begin with the letter B that she knows. The teacher is horrified and sees Julian giving Sophie the box, so she takes them both to the principal. Julian urinates on the carpet there and gets the box from Sophie, so the principal transfers the boy to another class to separate the children. However, the game continues. Having accepted another challenge, Julian spills paint on the teacher and again ends up with the principal. There he meets Sophie, and together, listening to them being scolded, they hold hands. This is how Julian and Sophie become best friends. One day Sophie invites him to her sister's wedding. Sitting under the table, Sophie asks Julian if he could say no at his wedding, and the guy answers that it's easy. Afterwards, the two of them tear the tablecloth off the table so that the wedding cake falls to the floor. That evening, father brings Julian to the hospital because his mother's condition has deteriorated sharply. She lies unconscious and Julian asks her to get better. Suddenly Sophie comes to the hospital, but Julian tells her that this is not a place for pranks and she should leave. Sophie is disappointed that he only sees her as a playmate, so she asks Julian to jump for exactly an hour on one leg and leaves. Julian believes that if he succeeds, his mother will recover, but he falls and his mother dies at that very moment. At the funeral, Sophie climbs onto the monument and sings to cheer Julian up. The grieving father's anger at the girl only intensifies, but he understands that only Sophie can help Julian cope with the loss and survive it more easily. The father invites Sophie to visit and leaves them to spend the night together. 10 years pass. Julian and Sophie grow up and continue to play, remaining best friends. One morning, Sophie is late for an exam at college, and Julian challenges her to show up wearing her underwear over her clothes. The rules of the game remain the same, but if in childhood it looked like a prank, now it looks like a perversion. Sophie wears lingerie to her exam, and Julian flirts with a student named Oral. Sophie sees this and fails the exam because she feels jealous. She says that Oral has nothing good except her earrings, and therefore asks Julian to get them. Julian accepts the challenge, retires with Oral in the toilet, and after intimacy, he begs on his knees to give him earrings. Julian later gives these earrings to Sophie, and she throws them into the sewer. On the way home, she asks Julian to kiss her, and then Sophie offers to do the same on the roof of the car. Julian fulfills this wish as well, while the car driver colorfully describes who he thinks they are, and what he will do to them if he catches them. In an alley, Sophie throws a box on the floor and asks Julian to love her. He answers that he accepts this challenge, but Sophie suddenly gets offended by him, because for her this is not a game. She leaves, leaving Julian completely at a loss. Julian's constant games and carelessness worry his father more and more. He demands that Julian go to a university and finally grow up. The father believes that Julian's game killed his mother and now it can ruin his own life. The father throws the box out of the car and demands to choose, either he or Sophie. Julian leaves his father, picks up the box and runs to Sophie's house. He asks for forgiveness, but Sophie takes the box and sends him away. Time passes. Julian follows his father's advice, enters the university and studies hard there. A few years later, Sophie finds him in the library, says she forgives him and returns the box. Julian is very busy with his studies and suggests meeting in a year. Sophie doesn't like that he rejects her and so she declares that then she will try different men for the whole year of waiting. Julian tells Sophie to be careful and gives her a condom. She is offended that Julian is not jealous, so she leaves. Julian, in turn, realizes that he has no power over Sophie, and then he runs after the bus and shouts after her that he loves her, but she ignores it. A year passes. Sophie works behind the bar in a small cafeteria. One day Julian comes to her and invites her to dinner in the evening. In an expensive restaurant, Julian orders dinner, champagne, and inquires about Sophie's personal life. She says that this morning she broke up with Sergei, a football player in the second league of France. Sophie takes Julian's sudden appearance and his interest as flirting. She turns her attention to the girl at the next table. The stranger girl is having dinner in exactly the same dress that she was during her last meeting with Julian. He takes Sophie by the hand and admits that he has been waiting for this evening for a long time. He is in love and wants to get married. Confused Sophie cannot believe what is happening. She could not even dream that Julian would propose to her. He wants to get consent and reminds that without Sophie's participation the wedding will not take place. Julian shows the ring box and gives it to Sophie for safekeeping until the day of the ceremony. Sophie agrees, and while all the visitors congratulate them with applause, Julian tells Sophie that she will be his witness. The joy on Sophie's face instantly disappears, and the same stranger girl is already approaching them. Julian says that this girl's name is Christelle and she is his future wife, and also that he gave her such a dress. Sophie believed that Julian was not capable of hurting her, but she was mistaken. He lifts the cloche, under which Sophie sees a box. At the wedding ceremony, Julian and Christelle exchange consents, and in this moment Sophie rolls the box to the altar. She protests against this marriage and reminds Julian that as a child, under the table, he accepted the challenge of saying no at his wedding. The ceremony is disrupted. Julian's father cannot stand it. He says that he no longer has a son and then leaves. Later, Sophie stands at a railway junction, blindfolded. Because this time the box is in Julian's hands. Sophie hears the sound of the train and asks permission to remove the blindfold, but Julian sits next to her in silence. At the last moment, Sophie rips off the blindfold and escapes the train, breaking the terms of the bet. She is scared and angry with Julian, so she announces a new bet. They won't see each other until 10 years from now. Sophie returns to Sergei and promises to stay with him if he signs a contract with a more successful football club, because she deserves it. Over the next 10 years, Julian does not hear anything about Sophie, but often sees her husband Sergei on TV. Now he is a national hero, the dream of all women, a league star, the best striker of the year and the sex symbol of France. Julian's excitement and interest in life gradually fades away, the urgency of existence disappears. Now Julian is 35 years old, he has a stable job, a wife, Christelle, and 2 children. Exactly 10 years have passed since the quarrel. Julian spends the evening at home. He opens the mail and sees that same box and a note from Sophie, which contains the address and is asking him to come right now. Julian sees the huge house of Sophie and Sergei, but there is no light inside. Everything around is scattered and broken. Sophie turns to face Julian and tells the police on the phone that the same maniac has returned again. They will arrive in a minute, Sophie says and laughs. Julian feels a rush of adrenaline and joy. They laugh together for 40 seconds. The siren approaches and Julian runs to his car as the game resumes again. The police are pursuing him and he feels absolute happiness, because for Julian the game is better than freedom, than sex and even than life itself. While escaping from pursuit, he gets into an accident and his car explodes. Sophie receives a call from the hospital because she is listed as Julian's contact person in case something happens to him. At the hospital, Sophie sees a burnt body in very bad shape and she cries. Broken, she takes partially charred box and leaves. And in the next room, Julian is beaming with joy, for whom the doctor just puts a few stitches on his forehead. On the way home, Sophie continues to sob until one strange thing comes to her mind. The box in the hospital was almost intact, so she laughs and asks Sergei to go back. Sophie meets Julian at the entrance to the hospital, and he begins to sing to her about his love. An excited Christelle shouts from behind that it's time to return to the children. Jealous Sergei hits Julian in the jaw and he loses consciousness. Sophie falls to him and demands that Julian wake up immediately. He comes to his senses and they go to the construction site. Standing at the bottom of a deep pit, they understand that their lives are already so separated that only strong concrete can secure their love in eternity. Julian admits that he has a few things left to do: swallow an aunt, curse a beggar, and love Sophie madly. The concrete mixer fills the pit to the end. Only the box floats to the top. In heaven, elderly Julian and Sophie are relaxing in nature. She opens the box and shares the shiny chocolates with Julian. He kisses Sophie and time rewinds in his memories. Julian could have confessed his love to Sophie a long time ago and probably wouldn't have reduced their lives to concrete. Returning to the school bus, little Julian still passionately kisses his beloved. Thank you for watching. To support the channel, like, write in the comments your thoughts about this film and be sure to subscribe so as not to miss new videos.